Long ago, in a small village called Bethany, there lived three people who loved Jesus very much. Their names were Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. They were not just friends of Jesus, they were family to him. Their home was a place where Jesus rested, their table was where he ate, their hearts were where he belonged, and Jesus loved them deeply. But one day, something terrible happened. Lazarus became very sick. It was not a small sickness. It was the kind that makes your body weak and your family afraid. Mary and Martha watched their brother suffer. They tried everything they could think of. They gave him water, they kept him comfortable, they prayed and prayed, but Lazarus was getting worse. Mary and Martha knew exactly what to do. They needed Jesus. Jesus had healed so many people. He had made the blind see and the lame walk. Surely he would come for his friend. Surely he would rush to save Lazarus. So they sent word to Jesus. The message was simple and heartbreaking. Lord, the one you love is sick. They did not demand. They did not explain what Jesus should do. They simply told him the truth and trusted he would come. But Jesus did something that made no sense. When he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was. He did not pack his things. He did not hurry down the road. He waited. For 2 whole days, Jesus stayed away while his friend was dying. Can you imagine how Mary and Martha felt? They kept looking down the road, hoping to see Jesus coming. Every hour that passed, Lazarus grew weaker. Every day without Jesus felt like abandonment, and then Lazarus died. The brother they loved was gone. The friend Jesus cherished had taken his last breath. Mary and Martha were crushed. Their hearts were shattered into pieces. But something hurt even more than death itself. Jesus had not come. The one they trusted most had stayed away. The one who could have saved Lazarus had chosen not to hurry. In their grief, they must have wondered why. Why would Jesus let this happen? Why would he stay away when they needed him most? The village of Bethany filled with mourners. People came to weep with Mary and Martha. They brought food and spoke quiet words. But nothing could fill the emptiness left by Lazarus. Nothing could answer the question that burned in their hearts. Where was Jesus? 4 days passed, 4 long days of grief and confusion, 4 days of wondering if they had been forgotten. Then someone ran into the village with news. Jesus was coming. Finally, after 4 days, Jesus was on his way. Martha heard first. Without waiting, without thinking, she ran to meet him on the road. And when she saw Jesus, everything she had been holding inside came pouring out. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Her words were not angry, but they were honest. They were filled with pain and confusion. They were the cry of someone who loved Jesus but could not understand his choices. Jesus looked at Martha with such tenderness. He knew her pain, he knew her questions, and he spoke words that would change everything. I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. These were not just nice words to make Martha feel better. This was Jesus revealing who he truly was. This was the moment when everything Martha thought she knew about life and death was about to be turned upside down. Martha ran back to get Mary, and Mary, who was sitting in the house surrounded by mourners, got up immediately when she heard Jesus was calling for her. She ran to him, and when she reached Jesus, she fell at his feet. The same words came from her lips. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. 2 sisters, the same grief, the same question, the same broken trust that was searching for understanding. Jesus saw Mary weeping. He saw the people with her weeping, and something happened inside of Jesus that the Bible describes in the shortest verse ever written. Jesus wept. The Son of God, standing on a dusty road in Bethany, cried. He cried real tears. He felt real grief. Even though he knew exactly what he was about to do, even though he knew the miracle that was coming, Jesus entered into their pain. He did not stand above their suffering. He stood inside it with them. Some people watching said, "See how he loved him." But others whispered, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?" Even in that moment, people questioned. Even in that moment, they wondered why Jesus had not prevented this pain. They could not see what was coming. They could not imagine that Jesus had a plan bigger than their understanding. Jesus walked to the tomb where Lazarus had been laid. It was a cave with a stone rolled across the entrance, and Jesus said something that seemed impossible. "Take away the stone." Martha, always practical, always honest, spoke up immediately. "But Lord, by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there 4 days." She was not being difficult, she was being real. Lazarus was dead and buried, his body was already decaying. What could possibly be done now? Jesus looked at Martha and reminded her, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" This was not about what made sense. This was not about what seemed possible. This was about believing that God could do something beyond human understanding. So they rolled away the stone. Jesus looked up to heaven and prayed out loud. He thanked his Father. He spoke so that everyone listening would know this miracle came from God. And then Jesus did something that had never been done before. He called into the tomb, "Lazarus, come out." His voice was loud and clear and full of authority. It was the voice that spoke the world into existence. It was the voice that calmed storms and cast out demons. And now it was the voice calling life back into death. For a moment, nothing happened. The crowd held its breath. The sisters held on to hope. And then from inside that dark tomb, something moved. Lazarus walked out. He was still wrapped in grave clothes, strips of linen covering his body, a cloth around his face. But he was alive. He was breathing. He was moving. Death had lost its grip. The impossible had become possible. Jesus looked at the stunned crowd and said simply, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." Lazarus was free. Lazarus was alive. Lazarus had been given back to his sisters, back to his village, back to life itself. The people who saw this miracle could not stay silent. Some believed in Jesus right there, their hearts open to the truth of who he was. But others ran to tell the religious leaders, and those leaders began to plot against Jesus. This miracle was too powerful. This sign was too clear. If they let Jesus continue, everyone would believe in him. So they decided that Jesus must die. The very miracle that brought Lazarus back to life set in motion the events that would lead to Jesus' death. But here is what we often miss. Here is the truth that changes everything. Lazarus was not raised just for Lazarus. Yes, Lazarus got to live again. Yes, Mary and Martha got their brother back. But this miracle was never just about one family in one village. This miracle was for everyone watching. It was for the disciples who needed to see Jesus' power over death before they watched him die on a cross. It was for the people who would hear this story and believe. It was for you and me, thousands of years later, reading these words and learning that Jesus has power over the darkest, most final thing we fear. When Jesus waited those 2 extra days, he was not being cruel. He was being purposeful. If Jesus had come right away and healed Lazarus, people would have said, "What a wonderful healer." But because Jesus waited until Lazarus was 4 days dead, no one could deny what happened. No one could say Lazarus was just sleeping or just sick. He was completely, totally, undeniably dead. And Jesus brought him back. This was not just healing. This was resurrection. This was proof that Jesus meant what he said when he called himself the resurrection and the life. Think about Mary and Martha during those 4 days. They could not see the purpose in their pain. They could not understand why Jesus stayed away. From where they stood, it looked like Jesus did not care. It looked like he had abandoned them. It looked like their faith had been misplaced. But Jesus was never absent. He was never uncaring. He was working on a plan that was bigger than their immediate comfort. He was preparing a miracle that would reveal his glory and strengthen the faith of everyone who witnessed it. Sometimes God does not answer our prayers the way we want or when we want because he is preparing something greater. Sometimes the delay is not denial. Sometimes the waiting is not abandonment. Sometimes God is working on a miracle that will not just help us, but will help everyone who sees what God can do. Our pain is never pointless when it is held in God's hands. Our suffering is never wasted when it becomes a testimony of God's power. Lazarus himself did not ask to be raised. He did not get a choice in the matter. He was simply the recipient of a miracle that served a purpose beyond himself. And maybe that is true for us too. Maybe the things God does in our lives are not just for us. Maybe our healing is meant to give hope to someone else. Maybe our breakthrough is meant to show someone else that God is real. Maybe our story is meant to be a chapter in God's bigger story of redemption and love. After Lazarus was raised, he became a living testimony. People came from all over just to see the man who had been dead and was now alive. His very existence pointed people to Jesus. He did not have to preach sermons or perform miracles himself. He just had to be alive. He just had to be proof that Jesus could do the impossible. And that made the religious leaders so angry that they plotted to kill Lazarus too. They wanted to destroy the evidence of Jesus' power. But you cannot kill a testimony, you cannot silence a miracle. Lazarus had been given a second chance at life, and that life was not his own anymore. It belonged to the one who called him out of the grave. It belonged to Jesus. And Lazarus spent the rest of his days as a walking reminder that death is not the end when Jesus is involved. We do not know how long Lazarus lived after this miracle. We do not know what he did with his second chance, but we know this: he eventually died again. Because the resurrection of Lazarus was temporary, it was a sign pointing to something greater. It was a preview of the resurrection that Jesus himself would experience. When Jesus rose from the dead 3 days after his crucifixion, he did not come back to die again. He rose in a glorified body that would never decay. He conquered death permanently and completely. The resurrection of Lazarus was for the people of that time, but the resurrection of Jesus is for all people of all time. Lazarus came out of the tomb still wrapped in grave clothes. Jesus left his grave clothes folded neatly in the empty tomb. Lazarus needed help to be freed from his burial wrappings. Jesus walked out in complete freedom and power. Lazarus was a miracle. Jesus is the miracle worker. So what does this mean for us today? It means that Jesus sees our pain. He knows when we are suffering. He hears our desperate prayers. And even when it feels like he is not coming, even when it feels like he is staying away while we fall apart, he has not forgotten us. He is working on something we cannot yet see. He is preparing a miracle that will serve a purpose beyond our understanding. It means that our delays are not denials. Our waiting is not wasted. Our grief is not ignored. Jesus enters into our pain. He weeps with us. He feels what we feel. And then at just the right moment, he speaks life into our dead situations. He calls us out of our tombs. He removes our grave clothes. He sets us free. It means that our stories are not just about us. The things we go through, the miracles we receive, the breakthroughs we experience are meant to point others to Jesus. We are living testimonies. We are walking proof that God is real and that he still does the impossible. Our lives are not our own. They belong to the one who gave them to us, who sustains them, and who can resurrect them when they feel dead. Mary and Martha learned that Jesus' timing is perfect even when it feels painful. They learned that his ways are higher than our ways. They learned that faith means trusting even when we cannot see the purpose. And they learned that Jesus is exactly who he says he is: the resurrection and the life. Lazarus learned that life is a gift to be stewarded, not a possession to be hoarded. He learned that being raised from death comes with responsibility. He learned that his second chance was meant to glorify God and point people to Jesus. And we can learn these same lessons. We can trust that God is working even in our waiting. We can believe that our pain has purpose. We can know that we are not forgotten or abandoned. We can live as people who have been called out of darkness into light, out of death into life, out of despair into hope. Just like Lazarus, we have been given life. Maybe not a physical resurrection from literal death, but a spiritual resurrection from the death of sin and separation from God. We were dead in our trespasses. We were bound in grave clothes of shame and guilt. We were trapped in tombs of our own making. But Jesus called our names. He spoke life over us. He commanded the stone to be rolled away. He told others to help unwrap us from everything that bound us. And now we live. Not for ourselves, but for the one who gave us life. Not in hiding, but as testimonies of what Jesus can do. Not in fear of death, but in the confidence that death has been defeated. Not in confusion about our purpose, but in the clarity that we are here to glorify God and point people to Jesus. Lazarus was not just raised for him, he was raised for his sisters who needed hope. He was raised for the disciples who needed faith. He was raised for the crowds who needed to see God's power. He was raised for the religious leaders who needed to be confronted with truth. He was raised for everyone who would ever hear his story and be reminded that Jesus has power over death. And you are not saved just for you. You are saved so that others might see and believe. You are healed so that others might find hope. You are set free so that others might seek freedom. Your life is a testimony. Your story is a sermon. Your very existence points to the goodness and power of God. Dear Jesus, thank you for raising Lazarus. Thank you for showing us that you have power over death. Thank you for weeping with us in our pain and calling us out of our tombs. Help us trust your timing even when it hurts. Help us believe that our stories are bigger than ourselves. Help us live as testimonies of your resurrection power. We are not our own. We belong to you.